This is the field of 68. I'm Vince Wolfram.
I'm JOJO CAVANAGH in Auburn, Alabama. And this
is Straight Out the Jungle. Welcome back to Straight Out the Jungle. My name is Vince Wolfram.
And I'm JOJO CAVANAGH.
Today, Tahaad Pettiford assisted Dylan Cardwell on a go-ahead dunk and converted 2 free throws with 4.4 seconds remaining to lift number 2 Auburn to a win over South Carolina in a scary game where leading scorer and potential college basketball player of the year, Johni Broome, went down with an injury. Despite the win, despite the 66-63 win, a lot of news from this game. And first off, I just want to say prayers to Johni for a speedy recovery. We hope he's doing okay. But you have more on what Bruce and the team have said about Johni and his recovery so far.
Yeah, I think probably this is Auburn, an Auburn fan. One of their biggest nightmares is Johni Broome going down, and you kind of saw his reaction, his screaming. I think every Auburn fan was sad about that. You never want to see any player go down like that, whether they're on your team or not, and especially to see your leading scorer, leading rebounder, All-American Johni Broome go down like that. It obviously was horrible to see. Bruce Pearl came on SEC Network afterward and said he has a significant ankle sprain and will be coming to Auburn tonight to get an MRI. So we don't really know the severity of that. Bruce Pearl said he will miss some time. So whether that is 1 game, 2 game, 3 games a month, no one really knows. We guess we will find out more information tomorrow when Bruce Pearl has a presser or whenever his next presser is. But yeah, obviously an Auburn fan's biggest nightmare. No one ever wants to see a player go down like that. He was able to come back to the bench for the final points of the game, but he was not on that. He still had his left foot and left ankle not touching the ground, and his teammates like Chris Moore, we saw that picture go viral, kind of helping him off of the court. So not really the best thing to happen, but do have to say the resiliency of this Auburn team. I was texting you back and forth after watching that, his reaction, like I was ill. And so I can't imagine the players, their reaction, how they felt. And for them to come back, we were down for coming out of halftime. Johni Broome goes down. You kind of expect, these players to have a reaction to that. And obviously they did, but we were able to come out with that win 66-63 when your captain, when your leading player goes down. So prayers to Johni Broome. We hope we get more information. Hopefully it's good information. Like I said, he will miss some time, but yeah, he was able to come back to the bench at some point at the end of the game. So that's a little bit of a bright side, I guess.
Yeah, and when it happened, you just get gutted. I still feel a little weird after knowing it, seeing it, watching it happen. Luckily, Auburn came out with the win, or that would be such a dark cloud over this team. And I second what Bruce said to Andy Burcham after the game. He said, without our leader, without our best player, the guys stepped up and found a way. And that's the truth. When your best player goes down, you really have no other option but to step up and to take that next step. But it really does stink to see Johni go down. And we will make sure to keep you guys updated on what we learn from the team, from Bruce, about Johni's status, and hopefully when we know he will be able to return. But it seems like that is a little bit far out at the moment. But I'm glad they are getting back to Auburn, going through MRI testing just to make sure and jump on it as quick as they possibly can too. So Johni has some clarity, the team in preparation for their next game as well, but just a tough way for the Star to go out against South Carolina.
Yeah, but like you said, this team didn't let them phase them. We still able to come out with the win, and we have 3 big games coming up. Home against Mississippi State, away at Georgia, and then home against Tennessee. So those are not, like we said, the SEC is a gauntlet. Those are not small opponents. So, but this team was able to step up. Freshman Tahaad Pettiford was able to step up. We'll talk about later Bruce Pearl saying Chaney Johnson and Dylan Cardwell able to step up when one of the starting big goes out. So yeah, it's not going to be easy, but this team was able to come back with the win without Johni Broome. And I think that gives them a lot of confidence moving forward, especially when we know Johni Broome is going to miss some time.
And I thought the interesting thing for me was when we're playing with Johni Broome, he played 24 minutes, he played the majority of the first half. I thought we played far worse in the first half than the second half. So this team, in terms of stepping up, they've proven they can do it now on 2 occasions. One in Georgia State when Johni went out with the shoulder, and now even more, I think, this time against a tougher opponent. But that first half, I'm sure you and I were in the same boat there. it was a little miserable. You were
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, Auburn needs to kind of step it up. We're getting a little, we're teetering on the edge here. But they had little to no lift in the first half. And by lift, I mean punch, I mean energy, I mean that fire that Auburn usually plays with. They came out very, very flat. And Auburn didn't seem to run a lot of structured offenses, which I think was the start of that. It seemed like they were either rushed or they were taking too much one-on-one play, which isn't quite like this Auburn team. So to not have the structured offense from the start, I think played a big piece in that, because in the second half they got that going. But in the first half, it was all South Carolina. I thought the Gamecocks ate Auburn alive on the offensive boards. You felt like every shot missed by South Carolina was going to get rebounded by South Carolina. They had 10 offensive rebounds, leading to 11 second chance points in the first half. And frankly, they were mainly off missed threes. So those long rebounds, when you shoot from deep, comes off the rim a little tougher, harder to get those offensive rebounds. But South Carolina, they managed to do it. They managed to pull it off. They were shooting 1 for 8 from distance. So 7 chances to get offensive rebounds off of threes. And they did that to Auburn's 3 offensive rebounds in the first half. That was the glaring difference for me. But they also got in the first half. That was the glaring difference for me. But they also get to the line. They're very easily fouled. They like to be physical. They like to get to the cup. They're averaging 25 free throw attempts per game, which is the second highest in the conference. And they were 8 for 10 in the first half. With 6 minutes left in the first half. So through 14 minutes, they had already shot 10 free throws. That just shows how physical the game was. And that's where South Carolina beat Auburn in this first half. Frankly, they outdid Auburn in a lot of the bigger categories. Total rebounds, South Carolina led 21-14. Offensive rebounds, South Carolina led, like I had talked about, 11-5. Defensive rebounds, South Carolina led by 1. Second chance points, South Carolina led. Points in the paint, South Carolina was crushing Auburn, 26-18. Free throws, South Carolina leading. They did a lot of things that outdid that of Auburn in the first half. Which was really, really glaring to me. And we talked about bad starts in the second half. This was one where I was a little more worried in the first than I was in the second.
Yeah, we've talked about the past 2 games, Auburn not playing the best second half. And then this game, this is the worst first half we've seen from these Auburn
Yeah,
Tigers all season long, by
easily.
far. They were outdone, like you just said. I can't think of a good nickname like you came up for me, but with all of those stats.
Yeah.
But they got out rebounded throughout the entire game. They ended up at the end of the game getting out rebounded 37-33. We remember Chaney Johnson talking about Bruce Pearl after the Mizzou game saying, we have to do better rebounding. And he was on the team for that. And this is another game where they were out rebounded. So I'm sure that will come again into play. But again, that is without Johni Broome, those last, 10 minutes, the last half of the second half without
Yeah.
Johni Broome. So that, of course, plays a factor. But one of the biggest things that I saw comparing first to second half is points in the paint. South Carolina at the end of the game was 42 to Auburn's 28. That is so unlike Auburn. Again, that's with Johni Broome out. But still, we still have Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, and they did step up. But that is a huge thing to point out. But again, that is because Colin Murray Boyles, who had 25 points. He went off. He had 18 points at halftime. It looked like another Texas situation with Arthur Kaluma. Auburn just couldn't find a way to stop him. He ended up having 7 points in the second half. But then Nick Pringle, another one who had an insane first half. He had a double-double throughout the entire game, 12 points, 10 rebounding, but we just couldn't answer to Nick Pringle, whether it's Johni Broome, Dylan Cardwell, Chaney Johnson. It kind of looked like we couldn't answer to those 2 players, and those are the 2 players we ended up talking about previewing this game, but we kind of spoke it into existence because they had great games against Auburn, and of course, we'll talk about this later, but Nick Pringle, who had an insane first half, ended up missing 2 crucial free throws, and he's a veteran player. He transferred from Wofford, played 2 years at Alabama, now he's at South Carolina, so that is a veteran player, and we'll talk about a freshman stepping up for Auburn, but missing those 2 free throws. But again, Auburn in the first half, the worst we've seen by far. And Colin Murray Boyles with 18 points at halftime, just Auburn couldn't answer for him.
Yeah. The mix of Murray Boyles and Nick Pringle were the difference in the first half. That matchup was one we talked about pregame, is one I talked about on social media. That Dylan Cardwell Pringle matchup was going to be a deciding factor. It was in the first half. It really was. That offensive rebounds, you felt like everything was going South Carolina's way. You were looking around for help. And in my opinion, Auburn fans might harp on Dylan Cardwell for his play today because he did foul out. He had 5 fouls and was out the majority of the first half. He sort of came in and out just for minutes' sake and getting loose. But I thought he was fantastic in this game, fouls aside. Even Bruce Pearl said after the game, Dylan Cardwell, just incredible. He even said, I wish he would get a better whistle. Me too, Bruce. He also went on to say, I really do, in the sense that he had some terrific vertical plays that got him into foul trouble. Refereeing Dylan is hard, but I thought his defense, his physicality, his rebounding, his poise, 3 huge blocks, just tremendous. I couldn't second that statement from Bruce anymore. Think about the big moments Dylan Cardwell had in this game. 1, he fouled Nick Pringle, put him on the line. 2 free throws missed, helped Auburn win the game, realistically. While he did foul out, the foul did help Auburn in the end. So that's a big thing.
That's true.
And then, obviously, he has the game-winning dunk off the assist from Tahaad Pettiford with a minute and 32 seconds to go. That was big. And the fouls, like Bruce said, it's hard to ref Dylan Cardwell. Yes, he still had 6 points. He still had 7 rebounds, 3 of which were big offensive rebounds. He also had 3 blocks. He was protecting the paint, especially with Chaney Johnson in foul trouble, which we'll talk about. Johni Broome in and out of the game. Dylan Cardwell played a huge role, and it shows in the stats too. In total player impact with plus minus, Dylan had a plus minus of 16. Next closest, Chad Baker-Mazara with 8. You can harp on the fouls all day long. Yes, that's totally warranted. But the impact for Auburn basketball on the floor when Dylan Cardwell is playing the way he played today is immensely positive. And I think that trend will continue. And I hope they get the fouls under control.
Yeah, that was the highest plus minus, like you said, on the team. And he had 0 points at Texas. So coming into South Carolina, everyone kind of expected Dylan Cardwell to step up, and he had 4 points within the first few minutes. He had that alley-oop, but then he went back to defense and had that block on Nick Pringle, which led to a South Carolina shot clock violation. So just that sequence in a whole, and then
that was huge.
That was huge. And then minutes later, maybe even seconds later, Johni Broome misses a shot. Dylan Cardwell is there. He has 4 points on the board within the first few minutes after having 0 at Texas. So again, 6 points in total doesn't really look like much, but then when you look into the nitty-gritty, it was when Auburn needed it the most. And like you mentioned, that game-winning dunk, which assist from Tahaad Pettiford, that was the first points Auburn had in like 4 minutes. So he came in at points when Auburn really needed it. And Auburn, again, Dylan Cardwell had 3 blocks. Auburn leads the nation in blocks per game, and they had 8 today. So Dylan Cardwell added to that, and Denver Jones had another one. But just the impact that Dylan Cardwell has, like I said, 6 points. We bring this up almost every episode. Last game, he had 0 points. It wasn't really that big of an impact. But today, he only had 6 points, but enough with the box score. He had an impact on the game that was so much bigger because he had those points in crucial moments and crucial sequences.
Yeah, and being in foul trouble is never easy, and it's never easier when your twin flame there, once Johni Broome gets out of the game, is struggling with the same problem. Chaney Johnson, 3 fouls in the first half to Dylan Cardwell's 2, but Chaney Johnson, another guy that really stepped up in a major way.
Yeah, Chaney Johnson had 9 points, but we'll talk about the defense at the end of the game. Chaney Johnson stepping up when Johni Broome went out. But I think I talked about this last week. Chaney Johnson had 2 offensive rebounds, and those again led to points. So he had an off the bench dunk, which was absolutely insane. But then he had an offensive rebound, which led to Johni scoring a bucket. Then there was this sequence that I loved. It was the Denver Jones block, which I thought was insane. Another Denver Jones block. I love watching that. And then Tahaad had it. He missed that 3, but then Chaney Johnson was able to get that offensive rebound to score points. So again, we're seeing Chaney Johnson in a game where Auburn was not good off the glass. He had 2 offensive rebounds, which led to points. So that was crucial from him. He assisted on that Ja'Kai Howard 3, which Ja'Kai Howard showing up and getting minutes and scoring in those minutes is huge for Auburn, and especially in a close game like this, because that gave Auburn a 1-point lead of 62-61. So shout out to Ja'Kai Howard for stepping up. But then again, Chaney Johnson stepping up, offensive rebounds leading to points in a game where Auburn struggled on the glass.
You mentioned Ja'Kai Howard. I love him getting in the basketball game, and I love him making an impact in the minutes that he's given. I thought he was great today. But to your point, Chaney, I thought, was really good in the minutes that he did play. Wow. Yes, foul trouble. We've talked about that. He stepped up, and I thought, a major way. And drum roll, please. Just 5 minutes into the game, Mr. Chaney Johnson, he is my big guard of the game. Had a big jam, started on the right wing, 2 or 3 dribbles in, hammered it down. Big play from the big guard, Chaney Johnson. A great game for him. He's somebody that stepped up in every moment he's been called upon this season. And despite the fouls, despite Johni Broome being out, I thought the way he commanded the offense when he had the ball, the way he took advantage of opportunities to score, and the way he attacked the glass in the second half really, really assisted Auburn in winning this game.
I agree. It was the impact that him and Dylan Cardwell had on the floor together in those final minutes because Johni Broome was out, because it was a 1 point game going back and forth. And that is big coming from a D2 transfer to now. And we're going to keep, I don't feel like we shouldn't even bring it up anymore because he is so far from a D2 player. He is insane on this Auburn team coming off the bench. But another player who had a great game was Miles Kelly, who had 4 threes, 50% from the three, 4 for 8.
He was the plug for Auburn today, the offensive plug. Bruce said after the game, we've got pieces. We've just got to find different ways to win. And Miles Kelly was a piece today. He is a big piece. He's the consistent offensive spark for Auburn against the Gamecocks in today's game. Miles Kelly had a very efficient game. Like you said, 14 points, came out firing in the first half, which is what they needed. There was a little spark in that first half. I mentioned how they came out flat. That Chaney Johnson dunk, and Miles Kelly had a couple bombs in the first half. That gave Auburn a little bit of life, but majority was South Carolina. So those 6 points in the first half from MK was huge. Did the same thing in the second half. Came out firing, had 8 points, made 4 threes on the night, finished 5 of 10 from the floor. Also, 6 rebounds. Johni comes out of the game. Chaney's out of the game. Dylan's out of the game with foul trouble. Who is going to rebound the ball? Miles Kelly stepped up in a way that I didn't really expect. And he tweeted after the game, he said, Auburn fans, appreciate y'all. Showed up and showed out. Hashtag war damn. Miles Kelly loving the Auburn faithful in the building, and I'm sure the Auburn faithful reciprocate that back to him because he was really, really consistent today for the Tigers.
Yeah, there was a tweet I think that went out that was from, I think, a South Carolina fan saying this is one of the loudest away teams they've seen in an environment. And also there was another video saying this was one of the longest Tiger walks they've ever had in Columbia. So shout out to the Auburn family for showing out. And again, Miles Kelly showing the love, getting the love, appreciating the love. 14 points, like I said, we're comfortable from him shooting the three from Auburn to South Carolina. So him being able to make those clutch buckets is huge for Auburn. But Tahaad Pettiford is the guy that made those clutch buckets for Auburn today. He was our leading scorer with 15 points. So having your leading scorer come off the bench when your All-American gets hurt, he's off the bench and he's a freshman. And he had the 2 most crucial points of the game by far. Nick Pringle misses those 2 free throws, which couldn't have been better for Auburn fans because he is a Bama transfer too. So how to add that in there. But he misses those 2 free throws. They fouled Tahaad Pettiford. Well, they fouled Chad Baker-Mazara because they had a foul to give. And then they fouled Tahaad Pettiford. Tahaad Pettiford, the pressure's all on him. He makes those 2 free throws. He did it against Texas, and he did it again. So that coming from a freshman is huge. I tweeted that out. It got posted on social media, but that's from a freshman. And then not only that, he assisted Dylan Cardwell, like you mentioned before, in that last dunk of the game. Those were the last points that were not free throws of the game. And Bruce Pearl even said, we won this game because this guy made plays late and we defended. And he pointed this guy to Tahaad Pettiford. So he's a freshman, he's off the bench, and he is the one that won this game for Auburn, leading scorer, 15 points, and making crucial plays down the line.
All things considered, we learned even more about Tahaad Pettiford's clutch gene, which I know comes as no surprise to basically anyone and everyone who's ever watched him play. He said after the game, he said, everybody is ready. I feel like we have 12 guys that come prepared to play, and I feel like our bench can also start. For context, Tahaad Pettiford comes off the bench, hasn't started a single game in his entire Auburn career. No better source than that. I think our bench can start. Well, surely, sir, I would like to think so because you sure played like a starter today. I thought he had a great game. I thought, especially being a freshman, showing up in the big games has been his thing. He's done it on the road, similar to Miles Kelly, like I mentioned last game, has been better on the road. I think the same with Tahaad Pettiford. I'm interested to see an SEC play, how in the big games at home, how Tahaad steps up. But on the road, he's just been fantastic. He's been fabulous. He's been hard to stop. That's been the main thing. He might have off games. He might have games where he looks like a freshman. But even then, it's mainly because he's either too sped up or maybe he's missing shots, but it's not because of what a defense does to him. It's what he does to a defense. And that is something that is really, really special, especially to have as a 5-star freshman.
Yeah, I love that quote you just said. You're never not going to see effort from Tahaad Pettiford, whether it's against top-ranked opponents like Houston or Iowa State, or whether it's against non-ranked opponents like Texas at South Carolina, but in hard SEC hostile away environments. That is considered those are considered way hard games too on the road in hard environments. So whether it's against ranked opponents or whether it's against hard teams away in the SEC, Tahaad Pettiford steps up. And I am curious to see how he's going to do against hard opponents at home. We'll see that on Tuesday when they play Mississippi State at home. But like he said, he was the one who had those crucial points towards the end. But Bruce Pearl said Tahaad Pettiford had crucial points, but also Auburn defended.
Yeah, they sure did. In the last 2 minutes, I thought Auburn's defense was fantastic. South Carolina didn't score in the last 5 minutes and 18 seconds of this game. That's
Wow.
a fourth of the second half. They were 0 for 6 on their last field goals. Auburn really stepped up defensively. The script really flipped on South Carolina in the second half. They did it to Auburn in the first half, and maybe it didn't feel like it as much, but statistically, Auburn flipped the script and did the same thing they did in the first half to South Carolina in the second half. Gamecocks had 4 turnovers to Auburn's 2, shot 38% from the field to Auburn's 41, shot 16% from the line. I repeat, 16% from the line there, Nick Pringle.
I was going to say, shout out Nick Pringle.
Exactly. To Auburn's 50. Not like 50% is that great from the line, but compared to 16, yeah, did yourself. Carolina had 7 fouls to Auburn's 5. So in the first half where you felt like everybody and their mamas was fouling out, turns out South Carolina fouled more than Auburn in the second half. And Bruce said it after the game. He thought they really just stayed solid, gave themselves a chance, which on the road in the SEC, you're not going to have an opportunity to win a game if you don't give yourself the chance. Bruce's team certainly did that tonight. I thought it was led by Tahaad. I thought it was led by Chad. He didn't have the best offensive game of his career today, but defensively, that long frame he gets in passing lanes really caused some trouble, especially trying to get the ball into those big men, try to get them the basket. He was really, really a big factor in Auburn's defense today.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about him yet, but Denver Jones didn't have the greatest offensive performance today, but Bruce Pearl said it. The announcers we've been saying it. Shout out to Denver Jones in those final few minutes of the game. His defense on Colin Murray Boyles, whoever he was defending, his defense was crucial in the final minutes for South Carolina to not score in the last 5 minutes. So, like we said with Dylan Cardwell, it may not be shown on the box score, but Denver Jones' defensive impact was huge for Auburn to win this game in the crucial final minutes.
And defense is exactly what they're going to need going forward. Next for Auburn on Tuesday, they welcome number 14 Mississippi State to Neville Arena. And I think this matchup is going to be a great one. Mississippi State 5-0 in their last 5. They're 14-1 on the year. Only loss coming in a close one against Butler, but they beat Pittsburgh, they beat Memphis, they beat good teams, and the Bulldogs beat South Carolina, who Auburn played today in a close one. They beat them by 35 points, 85-50. I think this is going to be a fantastic game. We're really, really excited for this one.
Let me just say, I feel like for Auburn fans, we are lucky this one is at home. I feel like if this was at Mississippi State, this is very possible that this would have been Auburn's first SEC loss because this Mississippi State team is so underrated. The way Chris Shantz has had this team ready for any opponent, there's only one loss, which is to Butler, but that was that was a little bit long ago. SEC play, they have showed they are ready. They play number 6 Kentucky tonight at home. So that is going to be a game to watch for Auburn fans to see this Mississippi State team. And we'll see if Kentucky can bounce back after their loss at Georgia. But Mississippi State has beaten both South Carolina, and their second game was against Vandy. They won 76-64. But I know you want to talk about this is one of Vince's favorite guards in all of college basketball, Josh Hubbard.
Yes, there's this guy on Mississippi State that I've seen be, I guess, literally and figuratively, a dog. He is a Mississippi State Bulldog, but he's a dog on the court too. I love guys who just fill their role and they take what they've got and they give it the most that they can. This guy is 5'11". I've seen him in person. He might be 5'11". I think he's a little bit shorter than 5'11", but he is a menace. 17 points per game. 3 assists. He can score the ball at an extremely high level. He is going to give Denver Jones, those Auburn guards, he's going to give them a tough time. And I'm interested to see how they respond to the pressure that Josh Hubbard puts on them because he's a Mississippi kid too. So playing at Mississippi State every single game, it means something to him. And you can tell that when he plays. But then this Mississippi State team, I think they're more guard heavy, which with the circumstances from today, doesn't sound like we'll have Johni Broome on Tuesday. So playing a team that's guard heavy might be the perfect mix-up for Auburn in their next matchup, especially without their star.
Yeah. Mississippi State is guard heavy, and in their past two games, we've seen Texas and South Carolina with Arthur Kaluma and Colin Murray Boyles and Nick Pringle. They are bigs heavy, and especially with South Carolina today was at their starting point guard, Jamari Thomas. Bruce Pearl spoke how South Carolina got bigger, and I guess if maybe Auburn just wasn't really expecting Jamari Thomas to be out because that kind of wasn't really known to the media. So this is very good for Auburn that Mississippi State is guard heavy because Bruce Pearl did say Johni Broome is going to miss some time. So it is not as confirmed yet, but it is most likely that he will not be playing against Mississippi State. So that kind of does look like a good thing for Auburn. But Josh Hubbard had 21 points against Butler in their loss, and then 22 points against Butler in their loss, and 21 points against South Carolina in their routing 35-point win. So I think this is going to be one of the best games for Auburn this season at home. And Auburn, most likely, like I said, this is also not confirmed, will be the number one team in the country with these two SEC wins and Tennessee's loss against Florida. So could be Auburn number one at Neville Arena against Mississippi State, and Mississippi State ready to have an upset against the number one team at home. So this is going to be a really good game, probably one of the best of the season.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think too, if you're worried, Auburn fans, about the rebounding abilities, just know this stat. Keyshawn Murphy, Mississippi State's leading rebounder, is 6'10". He is their biggest player. He's their biggest rebounder. Guys like RJ Mendelez averages 3 rebounds a game, under 6'8". Cameron Matthews, another guy that averages close to 7 rebounds. He's 6'7". So their big men are a little bit undersized, which in a situation like Auburn's in, when Chaney Johnson and Dylan Cardwell are your two guys, maybe we see a little Jaheim Hudson and Chris Moore in there as well, where you're really just fighting for your life to get rebounds. It's going to be a good mix-up. It's a good combination for Auburn to win, I think. If they can continue to rebound, continue to crash the glass like Miles Kelly did today, I think they'll be able to manage and hopefully pull out a win against Mississippi State at home at Neville Arena on Tuesday. But can I just say, I'm just thankful Auburn basketball got a win today.
Yeah, no, me too. Yes, we were all so sad Johni Broome is out, but there is a bright side when Johni Broome was out Georgia State game. We saw Chaney Johnson absolutely step up and dominate. So I'm very curious to see in this next game against Mississippi State, if it'll be Chaney Johnson that will go out and dominate, or if I think this is a game where Ja'Kai Howard is going to get a lot more minutes. And we really haven't, we've seen Ja'Kai Howard come in those short minutes and make points. He made that 3 today, but I think against Mississippi State, Ja'Kai Howard could get more minutes. And I think we could see, the level of freshman that we've all been expecting from Ja'Kai Howard.
Yeah, I think it could be a Chad Baker-Mazara game too. Coming off a game like today where he didn't have his best offensive performance, that means he is just waiting to ooze and explode. So it should be a good one all around the board, but that's my pick for who's going to be the top player for Auburn against Mississippi State. Regardless, I'm ready for it. It should be a great game. I want to say again, prayers up to Johni Broome over these next couple of days. Hopefully a road to a quicker recovery. Hopefully you get answers as well to your injury and what it is and how to recover. So that's the hope for all Auburn faithful this weekend, is that hopefully Sunday church can really help out Johni Broome and give some blessings to that man.
Yeah, from straight out of the jungle, prayers up to Johni Broome, and just what a resilient performance from this Auburn team to step up with their All-American leading scorer down. So shout out to Tahaad Pettiford, Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, all those guys that stepped up when one of the best players on their team was out.
Regardless, though, a big 66-63 outlasting win for number 2 Auburn, who is in a prime position to become the number 1 team in the nation for the first time since 2022.
Well, we were number 1. It was our freshman year. So it was 2021, 2022.
Probably 2022, because it was after Kentucky, which was January time.
Yes, and it was freezing because I slept outside. So I remember it's absolutely freezing. So 2022.
Freeze warning before the freeze warning. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was a great win today by your Auburn Tigers. And if you want to stay tuned for the rest of this crazy, absurd SEC schedule, this is the spot to do it. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back on Tuesday with the recap of the Mississippi State game. And hopefully, since we're both back in Auburn, some more interviews with your favorite Auburn Tiger coaches, players, alums, anything under the Auburn basketball umbrella. We're going to try to talk to them all.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I don't know about you, but tonight, number 5, Alabama is at Texas A&M. This is the first top 10 matchup in College Station ever. So That's what I will be doing tonight. But anyway, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Like Vince said, we were both back at Auburn, so excited to bring you guys more content, especially with March, just a couple months away. So from Auburn, Alabama, finally, I'm JoJo CAVANAGH.
And from the other side of Auburn, Alabama, my name is Vince Wolfram. We'll see you guys next time. War Eagle.
War Eagle.